Hi, I'm Miss Hearn. Let's get started. So the next one we're going to solve 6x squared plus 5x equals negative 4. I'm going to get it in standard form, so that means 0 on one side. So we can do that very easily by just adding 4. So 6x squared plus 5x plus 4 would then be equal to 0. So this is in standard form now. That means 0 on one side, basically. Since the leading coefficient is not a 1, then as we've seen in class, then finding the factorization takes a little bit of work. Also, since we're not missing the x term, the square root property is not going to be so easy to get to either. So in that case, I say, well, let me just use the quadratic formula. The quadratic formula always works. There's never a situation where it doesn't. So again, what does the quadratic formula say? It says that if you have any equation of the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, then that means that we can find the solutions by plugging into the formula x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. All right, write the formula every time you work a problem using it, and pretty soon you're going to have it memorized. So we have to identify a, b, and c. A is the coefficient of x squared, so a is 6. B is the coefficient of x, so b is 5. And c is the constant term, which is 4 in this case. So we're going to plug into our formula. X equals negative b, the opposite of b is negative 5 in this case, plus or minus the square root of b squared, so 5 squared, minus 4 times a, which is 6, times c, which is 4. And this is all over 2 times a, or 2 times 6. Okay, so now is where the work begins. We have to simplify, so we're going to work under the radical first. Negative 5 plus or minus the square root of 5 squared is 25. We have only one minus here, so it's going to stay subtraction. And then 4 times 6 is 24. And then 24 times 4, so 96. All over 2 times 6, which is 12. Now what's 25 minus 96? 25 minus 96 is negative 71. X equals negative 5 plus or minus the square root of negative 71 over 12. Now we need to simplify the radical. What does it mean when we have a negative under a square root? If you have a negative under the square root, that's an imaginary number. So we're going to write it in I notation. So you immediately rewrite it as negative 5 plus or minus I times the square root of 71, all over 12. Make sure your fraction bar goes all the way across. All right, so now we want to know if we can simplify the square root of 71. So this is a prime number, and that means that this radical cannot be simplified. It's not 71 is not divisible by any perfect squares. So we can just write it like this, write our solutions like this. We can separate it into the positive version and the negative version. Or if you're told to write your answer in the standard form of a complex number, standard form of a complex number means that it has to be in the form of a plus b times I. So we have to have a real part and imaginary part, and if that's the case, you're going to want to separate this into two fractions, basically. So you would divide the negative 5 by the 12, plus or minus, and then you would have the square root of 71 over 12 times the I. If they say standard form of a complex number, they definitely don't want it all in one big fraction. They want it separated out. I hope you found this video useful. If you did, please remember to like it.